higher than she'll ever know. I love her to skin and bones, not thrown sticks and stones, just to let you validate your mercies to
Good evening, everybody, and we are back. Welcome to Loaded HQ. Not been around too much recently, but we're back and back with a bang with an away days, and it's great to be back in talking Newcastle United with you all. But look, before we get the main man in to talk the preview of the West Ham game, look, I just want to kind of just enjoy the moment a little bit. The fact that we're unbeaten in five, 3 in a row. It was a fantastic game on Sunday against Aston Villa. Fortunate to be there. The scenes at the beginning of the game were just fantastic. The atmosphere really was building up, and it was a great game. Great game to be a part of. Not the most technically like game out there, but the grit, the determination of the boys to really kind of like fight all the way through, particularly when we lost Trippier at the beginning of the second half. That was a massive blow to us. But look, the scenes at the end with the boys going around clapping the fans was fantastic. Anybody that was there, the singing, the chanting, I've not seen it like that at St James's Park for a long time. It was a real pleasure to be back in the ground and be a part of that for 90 minutes. But look, we got those big 3 points. Takes us four away from the drop zone. And puts us in a really good position to stay, hopefully, in the Premier League, which I believe that we will now. Talked about Trippier, a little bit of a blow. We're going to lose him for a significant period of time. But look, we've got to be confident. We've got to be confident that Eddie Howe is getting us playing the way that we want to play in order to stay in this league. And we're up there. As far as I'm aware, I think we're in the top 4 for the form table in the whole of the Premier League, which is a fantastic achievement. Since before Christmas, we didn't know where our next one was coming from. So we keep the faith, we keep going, and we continue to push ahead. And we push ahead to Saturday, the early kickoff on BT Sport, 12:30 away at the Olympic Stadium, playing against West Ham. Going to be a really tough game. Looking for 4 in a row. Are we good enough to get that? We'll wait and see. But look, I'm not just going to talk to you about this on my own. I've got the main man with me from West Ham Fans TV, Dan Lawless, returning. Was the original from the away days. Our first show is back to talk about West Ham and Newcastle. So let's get him in. How you doing, Dan?
All good, mate. All good. Good to be back. I didn't. You know what? I completely forgot I was the first one on the show. Like that's the original. I'm proud of. I'm happy to say that. The original.
Definitely. And you know what? Like it was fantastic. I think it was about a 2-hour show. I think we covered everything. We covered, the ownerships, the transfer window in the summer, pre-season, the lot. We covered everything in that.
Yeah.
Chat. And the one thing I will say is that, when you came on the show last time, we were kind of in a different state in terms of Loaded HQ. We had a lot less subscribers. A lot less viewers. We've got loads and loads of regulars in the chat tonight. We've got the likes of Wilfred, Tom Dixon, Geordie Toon for Life, Brett, Julie, so many, Gary, loads and loads that have joined the Loaded HQ.
It's a lot like your club, isn't it? You had a lot less money last time I was on as well, isn't it?
wait, you're not wrong, Dad. You're not wrong. Look, we're going to get into that. For sure. Because we're not the only ones that have come into a little bit of money since we last spoke. So, we're both benefiting here. That's for sure. But look, talking of money, we're just going to get straight into it. The transfer window, the winter transfer window. So obviously with Newcastle United, we went big, the biggest in Europe in terms of spending. 90 plus million spent on five big signings. I've got to say, we got last minute, we got Matty Target in on loan. We got this man in, Big Dan Burn. I'm going to steal this from Trueface Alex Hurst. He calls him the Blythe Bonucci, which I really like. I think that kind of suits him really down to the ground, particularly the way in which he played the weekend. We got Trippier. Trippier was in, and we got a couple of others as well. Some really, really good signings. Chris Wood being one of them, and we've strengthened really, really well. But I saw West Ham were in and around things over the course of the transfer window. Names being thrown out there quite a lot. Look, what do you make of your transfer window overall? Were you disappointed? Were you expecting more?
Yeah. Considering we didn't sign anyone at all, I was expecting just a little more. Considering we got one striker who was converted from a winger into a striker and who has fitness issues. Yeah. And we lost, one of our first choice centre backs in Ogbonna for probably a year. I was expecting much more considering we're trying to push on for top four to win the Europa League as well. I thought we would then kick on and do something, and we just didn't. And all of this talk about, it's hard to sign players in, in January. You went and signed, like you said, 5. I know obviously you had to pay a premium for it, but that's just what you got to do. And if you're serious, like you were serious about, okay, we want to stay in this league, and if we're serious about we want Champions League, we want to win a trophy, you have to slap the money down. And we got Kretinsky in. He come in into he's become the second majority shareholder, but we ain't seeing the money. We ain't seeing the money. The money was there apparently, but between the manager and the owners, apparently we couldn't find anyone Moyes' policy is, I want to sign someone that's going to improve the first 11, which you can understand that in one sense, but it's like, we need to strengthen the squad, and you're telling me we can't find anyone there that's a striker that could help push Antonio and help challenge him. You can't tell me there's not a centre back better than Diop or Dawson, who had a good game the other day, but come on. It's so frustrating, man.
I'm just going to touch on one player actually, because that, talking about strikers and talking about a need for that cover or that support for Mikel Antonio, because I've been thinking that for a while, and I'm pretty sure that we covered it in our previous showing that you guys have took a big risk over the last year just going with Mikel Antonio and not really having a backup as such, not a like for like backup, but you were linked with one, and at some point I think you did put a bid in or two. In fact, you were linked with a couple that we were linked with also. One of them was Hugo Ekitike from Rennes in France. It looked like I think you'd put a bid in or were very close to. A very, very talented young boy, 19. We actually got a bid accepted, but he didn't feel that he was ready to leave his hometown club to come over to England at this point in time. But then the big one, and look, Dan, I don't know whether you knew about this link or not. I'm kind of glad that you guys didn't get him in the end. But Darwin Núñez from Benfica, it looked like you were really kind of heavily linked with him in the last couple of days in the window. And we knew as a fan base that in the last couple of days that we weren't going to get a Darwin Núñez. But boy, I was glad that to see
you got to do them deals early in the, because you're trying to sign a team's best player at the end of the window when they can't replace them. It's like, yeah, okay, we're going to give them like 50 mil or 45 mil, whatever we're offering. What are they doing with that money? Because they're not going to have time to sign. So it's just a waste of time. Like, if you know this guy's out there, put the bid on in like the first week or two. Like, this is the problem. What we signed Rob Newman from Man City as a, you know, like scout, head scout or director of football or whatever. You come and help Moyes identify the players. Like, what are they doing? We weren't putting in any bids for the first few weeks. Then all of a sudden, typical last week comes, bids. Like we're putting in like 50 mil bids for Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, which are never gonna get accepted. Like, what the hell is?
Right, and you know what? Is seeing things like what Jordy Team for Life has just put on. He put, Dan, we're skint. We've just had 80 billion added to our account. That's just Jordy Team for Life. That's just rubbing salt in the wounds a little bit. I've got to be honest. But you look from your point of view, Dan. You know, I can see it's a frustrating one. And you know what? Even though we did go out and sign players, and we did kind of slap that money down, we kind of needed to. We needed to. We're in a really difficult position in the Premier League at the moment. It's very, very clear that the squad wasn't balanced. Our squad wasn't balanced. We needed balance. We needed players in there. But we had to put that money down early doors to be able to get Trippier in and get him through, pay his wages, get that deal done for Atletico. We had to prize him away. They didn't want to let him go. You know, Chris Wood, for example, 25 million. Would anyone else in the Premier League pay 25 million for him? Probably not, but we needed him at that particular time. We needed him now because we don't know how long Callum Wilson's going to be out. So you're right. Sometimes you've just got to put that money down and you've got to say, you know what, I want the player. Let's get it done. And I'm surprised, you know, looking from the outside that you guys didn't do that. But
Galatasaray from Marseille, you know, we could have got him for 15 mil, and like we've been linked with him for like a year now, and so obviously we're interested. But again, I'm in an R-in, not getting the deal done, second guessing, dithering Dave, all of that stuff, and we come with a thin squad, and we're in the Premier League, we're in the FA Cup, and we're in the Europa League. Like, so we're playing with fire, and if we end the season and we don't achieve anything, we don't get top 4, we don't even get top 6, mate, there's going to have to be some serious questions answered because they've thrown that away, basically.
Definitely. And look, let's move on to that quite nicely, actually, because you talked about league position as well. We know our situation. We're currently sort of we're just outside the relegation zone at the moment, 4 points clear. Did we think that was going to be possible six weeks or so ago? No. So we're absolutely buzzing at that, and 3 on the bounce, looking for 4 in a row. If anyone in the chat, and I know there's so many in the chat watching at the moment, if anyone in the chat knows the last time we went sort of 4 in a row, throw it in the chat. I'll get it up on the screen because I have no idea. I can't remember the last time we even went 3 in a row before that, let alone 4. But for you guys, you've just talked about it. You know, at the moment, up until Tuesday night when Man United played Brighton, you were 4th. You were in the Champions League spot. You know, what now, from your perspective, would you consider a successful season? Because obviously, there's a lot of you chasing 4th. You've got the likes of Tottenham, you've got the likes of Arsenal, yourself, Manchester United. There's 4 top teams there that are playing well. Maybe not Tottenham, but the other 3 are playing well, and you're chasing that 4th spot. What, in your mind, at this moment in time, would you consider to be a successful season? What do you expect from your team now?
Minimum for me, absolute minimum this season, for me to class it as like a good season, is 6th minimum. And people are going to think this is crazy, as West Ham or whatever, but 6th minimum and a successful season is top 4 or a trophy, because I'm looking ahead to next season. I look to the future, and I think that's what we need in order to be able to keep our space as one of these teams fighting for that top 4. Because this is the thing. I look at Newcastle. If you guys stay up, which now it's looking like you will, you're going to go again in the summer, spend a crazy amount of money, get the best possible players you can get in. Aston Villa probably going to spend another crazy amount of money. Everton, they might go and give Frank a load of money. Man United will go again in the summer. Arsenal will go again in the summer. Spurs, I don't know what's happening with them, but Wolves as well. So there's going to be a lot of teams coming for this spot. And, you know, what have we got? If we're not slapping down big money like these other clubs, then what have we got in order to cement ourselves there? Yes, we have a good core group of players, but we need to build on that. If other teams are getting stronger, we have to get considerably stronger as well to maintain that. And the problem is, if we don't achieve anything, and you do get the likes of Rice, who wants to go because, well, West Ham, we didn't show ambition when we could have. We failed on our objective this season. And he goes, that's a big player to replace. And then you got to say is, do we really trust these owners to replace a player like that and the manager, because of how much we don't. It's difficult because Moyes, obviously, he hasn't signed any dud players since he's come back really and truly. But sometimes you just got to go and take a risk on a player rather than sign no one. You know, we didn't sign a striker in August, because we didn't sign a striker last January when we sold Haller, because we wait till the summer. Summer came, didn't sign a striker. We'll get one in January. January came, didn't get a striker. We'll wait till the summer. What? It's just a constant cycle. So, yeah, success for me, top 4 or trophy. That's really what I want to see this season. But it's going to be hard, but we have to go all out for it.
You know what? I'm inclined to agree. I mean, look, you are. This is not you just kind of propping up the numbers in my. And I'm talking from an outsider looking in. You this season are not propping up the numbers here. You guys are here to play. And you guys are putting in performances that are really kind of making the likes of Man United and Arsenal in particular, because they're the ones that are really, in my opinion, they're really pushing you at the moment. You'll be putting in performances that are making them take notice. They're really kind of looking and monitoring. I've got a couple of Man United season ticket holders that are good friends of mine I grew up with. And they're forever looking at your scores every Saturday, hoping and praying that you guys don't pick up points.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's crazy, but that's the level of respect that they have for you right now. That's the level.
Could you imagine that when we were growing up, right? Back when we were younger, like in the Fergie days and that, like Man United fans looking out for West Ham scores, hoping we drop points. It's insane. It shows obviously how far we've come, but how far they've fallen at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. And look, I agree with Rob here. Rob Foggins just put on here, as a Toon supporter, I'm happy that West Ham are storming the top 6 party. Just have a bad game against us on Saturday. And look, Rob, I agree. And you know what? Rob's right, is that you guys are kind of flying the flag right now, because, you know, if you look at everyone outside that top 6, that top 4 in particular, they're always looking for a team to go and storm the party to say, hold on, we don't want that top 6 or top 4 to just be the same every season. We want to see different teams in there. People were relatively happy with Leicester breaking that party a couple of years ago. You guys did it and got European football last season. You know, you're looking to do the same. You know, you mentioned at the start, you said, oh, you know, people might think, oh, it's West Ham, blah, blah, blah. You backed it last season. And you pushed them last season, and now you're doing it 2 seasons in a row. You know, that shows progression there. The only thing I will say from my perspective is that just like Leicester City for a couple of years, you've got to go and do it, because that will take you to the next level. If you hit Champions League football, that then enables you to attract those top players, because you're playing Champions League football, and it allows you to kind of maintain and sustain that progression. You look at Leicester City this season, after 2 years of pushing Champions League football, pushing top 4, not quite getting it, now they're kind of falling flat, and you don't want to be that sort of team. And like you've just said, you've got the likes of Newcastle. If we stay in the league, you know, it's already been touted around that we're not playing games in the summer. In the summer, we're looking to go, you know, we're looking to make this January transfer window look like just a standard spend. We're looking to really build in, and the squad needs to be ripped up. You know, there'll be guys on the chat, and look, anyone on the chat, you got any questions for me or Dan with regards to the game or just in general, get them on there. I've already started about 16 questions.
Yeah,
I
see. You know what? I just see a lot of questions asking about how much we take for this player, that player, this player. Let me tell you guys something, right? There is a Newcastle tax, right? Yeah. This is the Newcastle price because you've got all that money now. Listen, if you want Declan Rice, like 300 million for Newcastle because you got it.
We've got no chance to get Declan Rice, no chance.
You know what I mean? Bowen, like 150, 200 mil for Bowen for Newcastle. There's nothing personal, but you got that money. It's like I put a tweet up from, I don't know if you ever remember Dave Chappelle's show, where he's getting his haircut and he's like, he charges him like 10 grand for a haircut. He's like, well, I thought it was, this was like, that's the old price. Because they find out he's got money. That's what it is.
You're right. And look, nobody knows it more than us as Newcastle fans that we have got a Newcastle tax. We have it, and we know we're going to have to pay above and beyond more than any other. So if it's a 20 million deal, we know we're paying 30. Yeah. At least, you know what I mean? It's the situation. You know, you look at Chris Wood, for example. We paid 25 million. Nobody would pay anything more than 20 million for Chris Wood. We had to play his buyout clause because they refused to sell him. You know, you look at Dan Burn, for example. To any other club, it'd have gone for 8 million from Brighton. We had to pay 13 with an additional 2 million to make it 15. You know what I mean? Like, so we're already seeing it already, and we know. We know for sure that it's going to be the case moving forward. But you know, from our point of view, you know, we're just. I think obviously we have a laugh and a joke about players. Oh, who can we sign? Blah blah blah. But we know as a club, we're as fans of the club, we're just happy that we're in the picture. We absolutely love the transfer window because we haven't had a transfer window like it for nearly 10, 11 years. Like, it's crazy that we're even in the mix. Transfer deadline day. You know, Keith Downey being at the stadium, like welcoming in like all these players. It's like, it's unheard of because we just didn't do this under the old ownership. So, you know, we're kind of enjoying the moment. But look, you're absolutely right. We are going to be paying a premium. That is,
yeah, that's it. And listen, you don't need Declan Rice. You got Sean Longstaff in it, like.
No, we haven't. Well, we have, but you know, we've got someone better. We've got this magician. We've got Bruno Guimaraes, who, you know, we signed for 40 million from Lyon. I can't even believe I forgot him. I forgot him in when I named the players earlier. How could I forget Bruno Guimaraes? Guys in the chat, you need to tell me off for that because he's an absolute magician. But look, we've got top players that are playing well in midfield. One of them is this guy, Big Joe Linton, absolutely tearing it up, and I'll come back to him in a second. You know, and in particular, there were one or two others. Joe Willock as well has been absolutely tearing it up recently. So look, we've got Sean Longstaff is lucky enough to get in the squad at the moment, let alone in the starting lineup. But we're going to come back to the midfield in Declan Rice in a second because, you know, I've got something to talk about with that, and it'll be an interesting point. Just to go back, just to rewind slightly, Brett's come back. 2018 for 4 in a row. Wow. Great stats there, great knowledge. And in the same season, apparently it was 3 in a row. So I appreciate that, Brett, top man, for coming back with that information. That's for sure. But look, I'm going to come back to West Ham slightly because look, it would be wrong of me if I didn't mention this topic at all. And I know there's been a lot of stuff going on at the moment at West Ham with regards to one player, and it's this man, Kurt Zouma. So look, I'm not gonna talk about the incident and what he did because we all know what he did. We all know that what he did was wrong, and it's not okay. But the bit that I want to talk to you about, Dan, is from your perspective as a fan of the club. Do you think the way in which the club handled the situation and the manager was the right thing to do for the football club?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a tough one. It was definitely not a good PR move from a PR perspective, putting him straight in there, because all of a sudden now there's all this attention. There's all this attention on us, the negative people calling us out, bashing us. And the funny thing is, he ended up missing the Leicester game due to illness.
Yeah.
If we could have just said, like, okay, he's going to sit this game. Obviously, they fined him the maximum you could possibly fine a player. Apparently, he's supposed to be having some sort of lessons or whatever. That hasn't happened. The RSPCA have denied it. They've denied they've received any money. I personally would never give any money to the RSPCA. That's just me. But there's other good charities they could have done it to. But yeah, like, it's such a, because look, that it really messed me up when I seen that, and I was such a big fan of Zouma. But I'm looking at it from their perspective and what more the club could have done, really and truly. They're going to ban him for doing that. When the police won't even take action, the police are saying, no, we ain't going to take action. RSPCA are saying, no, we're not going to press it. We're not going to pursue it. So from the club's perspective and the manager's perspective, the best he could have took him out the limelight a bit and took the heat off him. But I guess his point was, he's going to get it some way. Let's just put him out there, let him just face it up and go from there. But yeah, it's one of them. It's a difficult situation, I think, that he put the club in. But yeah, they seem to be getting on with it. Like, Zouma went and put in a good performance that game. And yeah, I mean, in terms of this, how much of an impact? I don't think it will have very much impact. It's one of them things that in football, everything moves so quickly. People just move on to the next thing, and people just will forget about it so fast. And the players seem to sort of have moved on with it. I see the Antonio done his interview, so the players seem to be obviously not condoning what he's done, seem to be disappointed, but seem to be all moving on from it. My thing is, the club just need to get him the help that he needs to make sure this never happens again. He needs some sort of psychic, mental evaluation business going on, because there's obviously some sort of wires that are loose, or they're messed up in his head. And if they can do that, that's the big thing, rather than, dragging through the mud. It's one of them things. Do we punish the club for something? I don't know, man. It's a difficult situation.
No, it is a difficult one. And obviously, yeah. I have to be honest. I was a little bit confused about the situation. For me, like you've just said, he certainly had an opportunity on Sunday when he was ill. When I found out that he was ill and he pulled out the warm up, my first thought was, well, that's an own goal there, because as you've already mentioned, if you knew he was ill, don't take the risk. Put him aside and say, you know what, I'm not going to take the risk of you because you're unwell. But you can PR it as in you've not allowed him to travel with the squad. That makes the whole media situation look better. But the fact that they've took him there, they've tried to get him through the game. He's ill. He's not then able to play. It just seems like they're just forcing him through a situation. And it just, for me, I don't think it looks good on the club. There are things. Yeah.
Considering France said, I mean, Didier Deschamps said he's not selecting, which he since he come to West Ham, he hasn't been selecting him anyway. So I think that might have been a PR move from him. But they said officially, we're not selecting Zouma because of that.
Yeah, and you know what? Fair play to him. Fair play to him for that. And I actually think it's quite harsh. It's quite harsh on David Moyes, because David Moyes has had to front up a lot of this stuff. What are your thoughts about David Moyes having to kind of answer all these questions and be the spokesperson for the club rather than the owners having to do it themselves?
Yes, it's kind of difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, he's always going to be the one, isn't it, on the front line as the manager. Whatever happens with the club, he's in his press conferences. They're going to ask him, and to me, I don't want the owners speaking to the press ever again. I don't want them nowhere near it, because every time it's just an own goal. They just end up embarrassing the club anytime they do speak. So I prefer them to just be silent. And Moyes, I thought, handled things, in his press conference quite well in how he sort of answered the questions, and he kept his cool. And I just think that if anyone's going to do it, he's the leader of the club, in terms of that of the team and all of that. So you want him to come out and give them answers. Like if David Sullivan tried to do it, he'd put his foot in his mouth for goal, and he just end up making it worse, And that's all you need. It's like, yeah, it's all right. Just buy a new cat. It's all right. Like some sort of thing. I can just imagine it. Like that's David. We don't want him speaking at all.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. That's a fair point, and I get that. That's for sure. There's some questions in the chat that I want to go to. I want to come back to one of West Ham fans, Penny Lorna, that was put on there. When you were talking about the transfers, it came back and said, Dan, they tried, as in West Ham did try and sign somebody, because obviously you were really frustrated about their situation. What do you make of that comment?
Yeah. With that, it's the thing. Like we hear it every transfer window whenever we don't get anything. I'm like, we tried, and it's like it's just a tiresome excuse, as Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. Get it done. Spend the money. Get someone over. Like, and this is what annoys me is they act like it seems like they wait till the transfer window opens and then go, right, okay, who should we sign? Like, we've known what we need months leading up to the transfer window. We knew we needed a striker a year before this January transfer window, but still we get to it and act like it's just open. Like, oh wow, it's like going to Asda and not knowing what food you need, if you need any bread, if you need any milk, what you need. Like, oh crap, like, but you've only got 20 minutes to get what you need, and you're like, oh crap, do we need any ice cream? Do we need any cereal? That's how they do it. But that's surely identify your targets going into the window so you can go, right, here's the strikers that we've listed. Let's go for this one first. Bang, and put some bids in. We can put bids in at the same time. Right, that's rejected. Okay, if that gets rejected, we're going to go for him, boom, boom, boom. And do that early on. But it seems like we don't start scouting and all of that until the window. And I know sometimes deals, it's almost like a domino effect that you're waiting for in terms of, okay, this club has to sell this player or get a replacement in for you to then buy this other player off them. Sometimes that's the case, but I just feel like we don't plan enough. There's not that preparation into it. And Moyes, he reminds me so much of what I was like as a kid. Like when I would go in, I'd get 50p to go to the sweet shop. And it's like, right, this is it. This 50p is it. I need to choose what sweets I want. And because that's decision, I'm going to have to live with that now. And I'm not going to get an opportunity for a while to get some sweets again. So I'm standing. You should spend a good hour or so in the sweet shop, looking at everything and deciding. He is like that in the transfer window, like me. But instead of 50p, he's got 50 million. So yeah, it's frustrating. It really is.
Okay. And we're going to stay on the Moyes topic and just segue just slightly to the right, because Martin, you might not know, but he's one of the Loaded boys on the Loaded channel. Martin's put, what does Dan put down to the success of Moyes at West Ham, but could not do it at Man United? It's a really good question, because obviously, even after his first stint at West Ham, where it didn't really go as well as maybe it could have, and he was sacked effectively on the back of that, everyone thought at that point Moyes was done. He came back in, and when he came back in, everyone thought, why are they putting him back in? He didn't do good the first time, and then he's completely turned you guys around. What do you put down to that level of success that he's had with you, certainly over the last 18 months?
Yeah, it's. I think with Man United, he went into Man United, being at Everton for so long, doing it on a shoestring budget, gets brought in as the guy chosen by Alex Ferguson himself to succeed him. A manager who'd been there 20, 25 years or 20, no, 20, how long had he been there? But nearly almost 25 years, wasn't it? Fergie was there.
Yeah, 25.
A long time, massive legacy, massive shoes to fill. He goes in there now, he's got all the money. And I feel like he just tried to make too many changes too quickly to Man United and rather than try and make the transition smooth. And I think, he said himself, he learned a lot. The manager that he was then isn't the manager he is now. Every failure he had, from Man United to your guy, to your mate Sunderland and Sociedad, he's learned from that. And that is the thing. And it just shows you when we look at managers who fail, and you think, right, they've had too many fail, they're finished. It just shows you that's not always the case. Like, they can learn. And he's coming to West Ham first time around. His job was just to keep us up, just keep us up in the league. But instead of the club looking at him and going, yeah, okay, let's give him something to build on, it's like, no, we wanted the big manager, the big name manager. You know, like yourselves have been there, linked in with, like, before Eddie Howe, you were talking about the Mourinhos and all of that, right? We wanted that name, so we went, okay, thank you. You know, he wasn't fired; he was just not retained. Getting Pellegrini now, which I was happy. Do you know what? I don't know. I was so happy when we let Moyes go. So happy because of the football we was playing at the time. I couldn't stand it, and yeah, we get Pellegrini in. It works for the first season. Roberto happens, a few bad signings come in, and destabilizing. And Moyes comes back again, survival football, but end well. But then he gets a chance now to really actually make signings, and these signings just hit the ground running. He got the best out of Antonio, and he's sort of been able to just climb and build, and he's got the club. Like, he come in, like, our running stats were 20th, like, in the table. Like, we had the lowest running stats of any club, and he ended up just pushing that right up. So a lot of things that he fixed within the club with how we play. The signings now, we're actually, and as much as I've complained about lack of transfer activity, he's taking that control off of David Sullivan, choosing the players, and him going, no, I'm going to put more scrutiny and make sure we get the right players in to fit my system and how I want to play, has worked. So that's been huge. He's not without fault, like, still. And this is the thing. I looked at David Moyes like you guys looked at Steve Bruce first time around. Like, I had that feeling about him, and then when we got him back, I just had that feeling about him, and he's won me over massively. But there's still these things about him, and I try hard to resist it. But when he does stuff like make a ridiculous sub or any bad decision making, it's so hard for me not to just completely go in on him. You know, he still does things that annoy me, but overall, he's done a great job. I hope that sort of encounters a big thing to sort of cover. I don't know.
No, to be fair, it's 18 months worth of progression, so it is something that needs to be kind of covered. And
10 years worth of development of him as a manager, from Man United, and now
he's kind of had to build his career again, hasn't he, after the Man United situation? So he's finally got to a point where he's been allowed to do that. And it was interesting that you talked about that he took the choosing of the transfers off the ownership, and he's kind of taken that on, because that's also a big thing as well when you're getting players signed for you.
There used to be a thing, I don't know if you ever had this, but it would be like, say we had Bilic, okay, we'd be all deciding, okay, which one's a Sullivan signing, which one's a Bilic signing, which one's a Sullivan signing, what's a Pellegrini signing, what's a Big Sam signing, what's a Sullivan signing. Like, there'd be players that are just like, and Big Sam said that himself on talk. He said, like, you'd get players that would just like turn up, and it's just like, yeah, there you go, like presents, he called them. Here you go, I've signed this player for you in the team. Like, the manager had no idea about, no say. You've got this guy whose background is in the porn industry as our director of football, selecting players. His sons were recommending us players based on how good they were on FIFA. You got to sign this player, Dad. Like, a Jetty. Oh, a Jetty's wicked on FIFA, Dad. Don't get a Jetty. And he comes.
I'm laughing at that, but the reason why I'm laughing, and the guys in the chat will know why I'm laughing, is because we had the same situation when Dennis Wise was our sort of technical director, sporting director, whatever you want to call it, and he was picking players off YouTube clips. So he was watching YouTube clips of players and recommending them to Mike Ashley. Mike Ashley, as you know, knows nothing about football and was signing these players. Cisco being one of them. You probably don't even remember who Cisco was when he played for Newcastle. He played one game. I think he scored a couple of goals, one start and a load of subs appearances. The worst signing probably in the history of Newcastle United.
But I bet he looked like a baller on them YouTube clips. Like,
I'll be honest, I never saw those YouTube clips, but he must have looked good for Dennis Wise and England International to be going, yeah, I want to sign him. And that was the reason why Kevin Keegan left the second time round, is because he realised that Wise was recommending these players to Mike Ashley. Keegan was going, who? Like, this guy's not good enough for Newcastle. Mike Ashley was going, you know what? Pay the money. And he was signing them off the back of it. It was mad. And then we got relegated that same season. That was 09. That was 09.
Oh my gosh. You know, how did I not hear about this? That's hilarious.
Honestly,
everyone looks good on YouTube clips. I used to you get a signing, don't you? Like, you hear you're linked with a player, you look at the YouTube clips and you get so excited because you're like, oh yeah, this guy looks brilliant. They come and they're just a massive flop, and you're like, what happens to that player? Because it's like you're seeing all these moments of a whole season condensed down into like a 3-minute video, and you're like, oh wow.
It's honestly, it's absolutely crazy. You can't make it up. And you know what? That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg with regards to that. With regards to Mike Ashley and the YouTube. So I feel your pain. With regard to that. That's for sure. But just before we move on, Julie has quite rightly said, if you've not clicked the like button, click that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We are pushing towards 3,000 subscribers. We're pushing. Your help is always appreciated. And we've got the Loaded family in the chat tonight, 180 watching, which is fantastic. Lots of comments. I'm trying my best to keep up. My main man, Chris Hall, is still under the weather. He'll be back this weekend, which is why he's not on. But I'm obviously talking to Dan, and we're having a great conversation about West Ham and Newcastle info. Keep your questions coming. Honestly, some fantastic questions, and I've starred a number of questions, but I'm working through the sections as we're going along, because there are certain questions earlier on in the show that I'm going to come back to because they're really, really good. So yeah, keep supporting, keep the likes going, and make sure you subscribe, as Judy said. Massive support. One of the questions I wanted to come to was from one of our big supporters at Loaded, Tom Dixon, and he said, there's a storm coming tonight, and we're aware of it across the country. And he said, obviously, I hope everyone keeps safe. But he said, so with regards to that, before I go to the next question from Tom Dixon that's already on there, are we concerned that actually the game might not take place on Saturday? Because with the early kickoff, because Friday is going to be so bad, is there a concern? Is there any talk down south in London, from your perspective, that the game might not go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard any talk about that. I've heard talk about potential train disruptions going into Stratford. So there could be some train lines that are down, that are not working, which is going to cause a lot of issue getting into Stratford. And last thing we want is the game to be called off. Like, honestly, none more of these postponements. And then, like, for us, especially where our fixture list is going to get real busy, fitting in a game like midweek or something, later on down the line. We want to just get this, and obviously it gives you a chance to get Trippier back and fit for when it does get replay. So hopefully the game goes ahead.
Look, if it meant that our game was rescheduled so that Trippier could play, I would be 100% up for that. There was no doubt about it. But we have no idea when Trippier is going to be back. It could be any time. There's talk that he could be back around the same time as Callum Wilson, which is looking like the last few games of the season. So like sort of like end of April, May.
Oh man, imagine it got scheduled. Yeah, Callum Wilson back, and then you put Callum Wilson and Chris Woods up front, and they'd just be scoring it'd be like 8-0 or something. For us.
You know what? The more you talk about it, the more I'm thinking, you know what? Cancellation might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, you're like, please, let's have a cancel.
But no, on a serious note, I do think it will go ahead. It's interesting you mentioned about the trains, actually. For anyone in the chat that's going down to the game on Saturday, I'll be there. It's my first time at the Olympic Stadium. First time actually going to watch a West Ham Newcastle game. Never went to Upton Park or the Bowling Ground. Never been to the Olympic Stadium. So my first time going down there. Been to pretty much every other stadium in the country, certainly those in the Premier League, apart from West Ham. So really looking forward to that. But the one thing about the trains is a really interesting point, because when we played Arsenal away in and around the December time, there was a real issue with the early kick-off, and actually there was a lot of Newcastle fans that were travelling down because there were issues with the weather. I think it was snowing in the places higher up in the country. There was an issue with trains getting cancelled and trains having to be delayed, and it meant that fans got in 15, 20, 30 minutes late into the ground. So, a lot of fans this time have thought ahead and are travelling down tonight, but there might still be issues there. Personally, for me,
I think it's so crap, to be honest, the way that they schedule them for these fixtures. I don't think a West Ham Newcastle fixture should ever be 12:30 or never should ever be 7:30, like, because of the distance, like, or a Newcastle, Bournemouth, or any of them. Like, they should really be a little bit more fan focused with how they put these, like, so give us the 5 o'clocks or 4 o'clocks on Sunday, or the 3 o'clock kickoffs, or these ones. Like, surely that when they're scheduling this out, they could easily put thought into it and go, yeah, let's think of the fans. It's going to be a crazy travel, like, because some Newcastle fans are going to have to get up at ridiculous time in the morning if they're driving down on the day, or spend extra money to get hotels. And and think about it, there's a ridiculous amount of London clubs now in the, you've got us, Chelsea, Palace, Arsenal, Tottenham, Brentford, all up in there. If you count Watford, there's a lot. Some people count Watford as a London club. I don't really, but they're there. But that's like 7 clubs, not including other clubs in and around the area. That's a lot. That's ridiculous for Newcastle fans. I think you guys get it the hardest, especially obviously the ones living it up in Newcastle, man. That's crazy. And I don't think there's enough done, like, in terms of cheaper trains, direct trains, fan trains, things they can do. It's ridiculous.
It is, and that those trains. I was looking at some of the prices from Newcastle. Some of the fans that travel down on trains, it's like nearly 200 quid return. It's unbelievable, and that just it just goes into when this Newcastle fans talk about Newcastle fans being one of the best in the country, is that we have to do some of the longest type of travels around for games, because we're the furthest north, and I think the next team down to us is like Leeds in Yorkshire. So like we have to travel the furthest to games. You've got like Southampton at the opposite end of the country, but because you've got so many London clubs and Midlands clubs, it's actually less distance to travel. Newcastle have to travel the furthest, and that's the most difficult thing about it all. And it just adds into why Newcastle fans are, why we're appreciated not just by the management in the club and the ownership, but by others in the country, because £200. That's before you think about your drink. That's before you think about your food and just your general maintenance of the day. It's madness. It's madness. Yeah. Instead of stick that to 5:30 kickoff, like you said, they wouldn't have to get up at crazy hours in the morning. They could get up at a decent time, get a decent sleep, travel there, still make it for a 5:30 kickoff, and there'd still be time to make a journey home. And they might get back at like 1 in the morning ish. But you take that rather than getting up at 4 in the morning to be able to make that long travel. It's mad.
It's crazy.
But going back to this question from Tom before we move on, who do you think will be Newcastle's main threats when we play Hughes on Saturday?
Definitely St. Maximin for sure. He's the one that I'm worried about. His pace. I still remember when Pellegrini. This was what turned me off Pellegrini, was when he played Zabaleta against St. Maximin. That was the final straw for me, where I went Pellegrini out, because it was just his pace. It was just ridiculous. And he's such a great player. He's really, really quality. So he's the main one that I'm worried about, for sure. Shelvey likes to have the game of his life against us, because for some reason it's like that thing of like, oh yeah, I'm a West Ham boy, so I don't know. I'm gonna just go for it. Like,
no, you're absolutely right. He does. He tends to play his best football against West Ham. Like you said, anyone that's not aware, Shelby is a West Ham boy. He is, and he obviously supports. Or was a supporter of West Ham. So I think there's definitely an element of that where he does kind of raise his game for West Ham. That's for sure. But you know what? Just to touch on that really quickly, John Joe Shelby is playing really well at the moment. Eddie Howe has got him playing. Like, if you'd have asked Newcastle fans before Eddie Howe came in, he was the one player that Newcastle fans all wanted out the club. They wanted him gone. They were adamant that regardless of what happened with this season, he was going to be sold. And the fact that he's come in, Eddie Howe's come in, and not just got him playing, but playing to a level that is probably that we've not seen before as an overall midfielder. I'll be honest, it's fantastic.
Yeah. I'll never forget one of the lads who, we interview on our channel, Dom, like went up to David Sullivan, him and another guy, Marshy, and said, like, when he's going, like, why aren't we signing players? Like, who should we sign? So what about John Joe Shelby? And he was like, John Joe Shelby, he's not good enough for West Ham. He's not good enough. And ever since then, he just kept having these great games against us. Sullivan just mugged him off, and that's just what happens. But yeah, Chris Woods is a big worry whether he starts or not. He's probably going to come off the bench, and you just look and you go, he loves to score against us. Absolutely loves it. Yeah. He's just one of him players. You've got two in Callum Wilson, and obviously he's not playing Wilson, but now you've got two players that love goals against West Ham. Although Lukaku didn't score against us this season, so I'm hoping we're breaking the curse of these players that just love goals against us. Joe Linton's on great form. Actually, I can't believe Joe Linton is a player that, back before this Eddie Howe revolution, I just thought, I could not believe. I was like, I'd say to Clinton, like £45 million you paid for this guy. Like, that's been the worst Brazilian I've ever seen in my life. He was so bad. And now, position change, almost like they've done a Moyes on him. And got the best out of him. So yeah, like they're the main player. St. Maximin, I think, is someone who's going to cause us a lot of problems, for sure. So he's really the number one for me.
Yeah, he did. Johnny 2 for Life is absolutely right. Moyes did a top job for Sunderland. Agent Moyes, should we call him? He did what he needed to do. He helped create the dynasty that is Sunderland right now in League One. So long may that continue. But look, just to touch on your point about Chris Wood. Chris Wood, he's obviously not scored for us yet, but he's put in some very, very good performances. Some Newcastle fans may disagree, but the stats are there. The aerial duels that he's winning, he's just kind of obliterating his centre-backs. He's winning everything. Flick-ons, holding on to the ball, creating the open space in the play. He's just missing a goal. And, I was in the corner on Sunday for the Villa game, and when we got the penalty that we thought that was a penalty, and I said to the guys behind me, I said, come on, Chris Wood, he can take a penalty. He's took one at Burnley before. And he picked up the ball. I was really happy for him. I'm really hoping that he was scoring. And then the referee changed it to being a free kick. And obviously Trippier scored the resulting free kick, which we were happy about anyway. But he just needs a goal to build up that confidence, because he came to us lacking confidence. And Sean Dyche alluded to it in his press conference after Wood left the club, is that he's been lacking confidence this season, and he's putting the performances in. We just need him to get a goal, and I'm really, really glad that you're saying that he likes to score against West Ham, because I could think of nothing better than Chris Wood getting the winning goal at the Olympic Stadium on Saturday. Fingers crossed. Certainly from my perspective. But yeah, we'll see what comes of that. Look, Dan, another question here. Wilfred, good friend of the channel, great guy. Gutted that I missed him at the weekend, but we'll catch up soon. He said, Dan, what does the West Ham way mean? What does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably get a few answers from three different people. But I think it goes back to, like, the West Ham way to us is how we play football. In a more, like, attacking way. If you go back to the 70s and 80s, the style of football we played in the 60s and things like that, like, we used to be known as a lot of people's second team, like a lot of different fans' second team, because of how we played football. you know, we'd always go out and we'd be entertaining, and you know, we'd go out and score goals, we concede goals, but you know, we'd put on, you know, some great performances. So when we're like, yeah, that's what we want to see with the West Ham way. That's where it come out when we had Big Sam. You know, that's where like everyone started to really hear about other fans like West Ham way, because we wasn't happy with the football we were playing. And Big Sam proved that he could play it, because his last season was some of the best football I've ever seen as a West Ham fan. It was ridiculous. We was in the top 4 and everything. And then like Candy Carroll comes back. And he comes straight in the team, and Kevin Nolan comes back, goes straight in the team, and West Ham way out the window is the Big Sam way. So yeah, that's that's what it is.
Typical Big Sam, and I think we'll agree that.
I think he just because they knew he weren't getting a new deal. I think he just like went, you know what, what they've told me I've got to play this West Ham way, and now I'm playing it. They're still not going to give me a new contract, so fuck it, which is mad. I honestly that season, man, we had Downing was playing had the season of his life. He was playing a diamond, and it was just so good. It was so, I couldn't believe it was Big Sam. And after that, it was just, and he got sacked at the Newcastle game. You beat us, and it was announced like as soon as I think it was like either a minute before the game ended or a minute after. So yeah, that was at the end of Big Sam's West Ham way.
Definitely. The less we talk about Big Sam, the better. From both clubs' perspectives. But D-Max put a good question on here. It's Newcastle related, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. He's put I think in 2 or 3 years Eddie Howe's going to be an elite manager. What are your thoughts on Eddie Howe in general, and what are your thoughts on the job that he's done at Newcastle so far?
Do you know what? I think he has exceeded expectations, just in the fact of, you looked at Eddie Howe as a manager and you looked at him and thought, you know what, like he can get Newcastle scoring, but you didn't really have too much of a problem. It was the defense that was the problem. That was the worry, because your defense was absolutely just shambolic. You had just a terrible, terrible defense. You're thinking, this is a manager that's not known for, you know, defending and not known for having, you know, a good defense. You know, so this is a recipe for disaster. But you know, he's, fair play to him. I think he's exceeded that expectations. This is going to be a test for him now, because he's going to be at a club now where he's going to have money to spend.
We don't do that on here. We don't do that on here. Look, bless John Sinclair. He's a great supporter of Loader HQ, and he's got a great channel himself, and he always gets himself in a mess. And good old John Sinclair in reading out names of people that are in. He's kind of been a little like Arsenal Fans TV with Don Robbie.
He gets done a lot. He gets done a lot.
I think you know Don Robbie quite well, so you've seen when he makes those mistakes all the time.
Yeah. I think I've been done like once or twice. Usually I'm quite good, but that's why some names, you know, you read a name and you go, wait, is that real name or not? And it's just someone's real name, but you got to work out, like you got to read it out and you go, oh right.
If that's the case, no chance. I'm not reading it at all. But yeah. No, that's a fair point. Right, okay, I'm going to go to something else now, because we touched on it a little bit, but I want to come back to it because, you know, we've touched on both players, to be fair. It starts with this. So Phil Hammond says, Declan Rice, we've got J7, okay? And we've talked about Joe Linton, J7 is Newcastle fans know him, and Declan Rice. I don't know how much of Joe Linton you've seen recently in recent games, but I'm really, really excited about how these two come together on Saturday. I think it's going to be a fantastic battle. Now, I know we talked about before in a build-up to a game when it was and we talked about the Sean Longstaff Declan Rice debate. And look, that's no longer a debate. Sean Longstaff's not in Declan Rice's levels.
You ain't got that picture lined up where he's doing that with Sean Longstaff behind him. You ain't got that to put up, no.
No, definitely
that
not.
Was perfect, right? That moment, because we had, which went viral, the guy because of Geordie Ric Flair who was giving it, and he was like, Declan Rice, no way, man. Sean Longstaff, woo, 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 all that. And it went all over West Ham social media, right? And honestly, like, that guy got roasted after that, like, when that game, because Declan Rice scored and he gives the shush with the it was just so beautiful, that moment.
And you know what, like, look, Sean Longstaff was playing really well at that point, and he did get injured. He got a knee injury that put him out for 4 months during that game. And I think personally, I personally think that he kind of, you know, he felt the nerves in that game because he knew the pressure was on him. There was talk about England calling him up and all the rest of it. And you know, he's not had the career that we expected after that point. However, we do have Big Joe Linton. And, you know, he was brought in as a striker, a £40 million striker. But as a midfield general, he has really, really turned not just his Newcastle career, but I think his football career around, because the performances he's putting in now and the stats are there on social media for all to see. When people are putting the stats on week to week of, you know, whether it's the pressures or the interceptions or the ball recoveries or whatever it is, as a midfielder, his stats are up there with some of the best in the league. And he's putting in performances. He's got a great run on him. He can track a player. He gets stuck in. I think this is going to be a really, really good battle. But I just wanted to get your points on this. I mean, like, how well has Declan Rice been playing for you? And do you think, what type of player would be able to stop Declan Rice from playing sort of game to game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, Declan Rice has just been consistent. Like, you don't really see him. You don't go, wow, like, Declan Rice is a shocker. Like, I never come away from a game thinking, geez, he was bad. Like, you have games where you think, oh, Declan Rice weren't up to, like, Declan Rice, like, his usual standards, but he's still far, far from one of the worst players when we've had a bad game. But, yeah, he's been brilliant. And he's trying to, you know, be more attacking, add more of going forward more. You know, add that into his game. The amount of forward passes he's making, the distance, the amount of like that he's carrying the ball. So yeah, you know, he's been brilliant. Like, I think it's sort of, in terms of stopping Declan Rice and what he does. It's. I mean, obviously you've got someone like, say, Maximum maybe could pace him, like, you know, do him for pace. And maybe a bit of trickery. His reading of the game is very good, so it's trying to catch him out on that.
I'm thinking the other way because I've been watching Declan Rice play. I've watched him in a few games. I watched him when he came on in the FA Cup game. I can't remember who you played, but you were 1-0 down, the lower league team.
Kidderminster,
that's the one. And I've watched him in a number of games, and I love about Declan Rice is that I think where Declan Rice really hurts teams is not actually from his defensive duties. It's how he glides with the ball. He gets the ball from deep and he'll drive forward. And it might be 40, 50, 60 yards. He'll drive forward, but he brings the West Ham team up the pitch. He takes them away from danger in their defensive areas. And I'm just thinking, like, you know, I'm looking at, for example, on the game against Aston Villa that we played at St James's Park on Sunday. They had Buendia and they had Coutinho that like to do that. They like to travel with the ball, comfortable and elegant with the ball at their feet. They didn't get a chance to do that because we had Joe Willock that was pressing high up the ball and not allowing them to gain momentum and bring the ball forward. Joe Linton was doing the same on the other side. And then you've got sort of Shelby that's holding deep and picking up the sort of scraps and allowing the play to go either side of the pitch. And I'm just thinking, you know, from an attacking point of view, it could be a really, really good battle. So
yeah, I mean, that pressing, like you said, you know, obviously he's carrying the ball, trying to close him down quickly. The good thing about Rice is he's so calm and cool under pressure. is if you press him to the point of, okay, I can't go forward anymore, he'll just turn and he'll find a player instantly, make that quick, simple pass, and just help us maintain possession. He's not going to be pressed and panic and just give away the ball. Very, very, it's very rare, or try and take a player on and go around him. Like he'll keep going. He'll think, right, no options, boom, go and pass it out to the wing. That's kind of how he goes. He's so calm on the ball. It's insane. And he's been like it for years. Like a lot of people are acting like Declan Rice has just got this good. Like we've seen it for years and years and years. We've seen it like since he was like 19 years old. And people tried to say couldn't see it, then tried to tell us we were overhyping him. But yeah, he's just getting better. He does get, I mean, we've always seen it, but you just see now from that young, the potential that he's got is scary.
Definitely. And Jordan Toon for Life says here, serious question for Dan. Do you think Rice will join Chelsea in the summer if you don't get the top four? I know Man United have been heavily linked with him as well. Do you think if you don't get top four, he's going to ask to leave, or do you think you've still got a few years left in Declan Rice as a West Ham player before he eventually moves on?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is top four to me. It's not so much about him leaving, it's about him signing a new deal. So I feel like we could definitely keep him. But if we don't get top four, if we don't, win a trophy, I don't think he's going to sign a new contract. That's my worry. Chelsea could come in. If Chelsea offer crazy money, then, yeah, we might just end up going accept it, and he might ask us to accept it. But, yeah, Man United, I can't see him really being desperate to go to Man United, wanting to go. One, they're an absolute mess in the shambles of a club. Two, he's very family orientated, so he would want to stay in London. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exhausting from our point of view. That's why I just want to get this over the line in terms of top four or trophy, just so it just eases that talk, because the papers are going to be going crazy, linking him all the time. No, and yeah, give him the money that he wants. Make him the highest paid player at the club by far. Like if we're saying we want, if Moyes is saying he's 120 mil is a bargain for him, we'll pay him that. Like what you're saying his value is, he should be like 150 to 200 grand a week player, in my opinion. No,
it's a fair point, and I think he's really. I think the Euros is took him to another level. I thought he was outstanding in the Euros, and a big reason why England were able to progress to the final. And there was a lot to talk about Calvin Phillips, and I thought they worked well together. But Declan Rice was the better of the two, and he really kind of grew as a player. And he came. It almost feels like he came back to West Ham with massive confidence in his own ability, not in an ego way, but just in a way in which, that progressional growth that you have as a footballer, and you come back and think, you know what, they're like, I'm good enough at this level. And I think that's helped you kick on. But it's going to be interesting watching the Declan Rice situation, because, look, you're absolutely right. If he is to leave, I think he's going to command big money. You look at Jack Grealish going from Aston Villa to Man City for 100 million. You'd be asking at least that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I had these debates about the whole Grealish, people saying Grealish is worth more because he's an attacking player, and I just think, obviously it depends on what club's buying him, but I just think he's more of an important player, Rice. Like, he is that key piece in the midfield that can link defense to attack, but he's also a leader, and honestly, I've no doubt about it, he will be a future England captain. 100% going to be future England captain. Like, Jack Grealish has gone to Man City and is just another guy, and he's not getting into the team. He's not really made an impact or anything. Whereas Declan Rice, I think any club he goes to, he's been linked with Real Madrid. Real Madrid want him apparently now. Yeah, they're in for him because Ancelotti's there, isn't it? So Ancelotti's played against Declan Rice. He's seen what he's capable of, and that is the club I would want him to go to. If any club,
to go abroad, not stay in England.
That's it. You want your best players to go abroad, and it'd be amazing to see him go to Real Madrid and just become, you know, a big player there, win Champions Leagues, win the Ligas, and yeah, like, you know, he deserves. He's such a great, you know, a great guy, and you know, you want the best, but yeah, you wouldn't really want to see him in a Man United shirt or a Chelsea or anything like that.
Who would want to go Man United at the moment? He's got more chance of winning things coming to us.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's true. It makes me laugh when like Arsenal fans are like, "Would you take Declan Rice?" It's like, "Would you take Declan Rice? Wouldn't take you. What are you talking about?"
You know, you're right. You're right. And that's the thing is that they talk about wanting these players, but you know, have they got the financial? Have Arsenal really got 100 million where they could slap down on one player? Probably not.
Even if they did, like, you know what I mean? What's the point at this moment in time? It's a sideways step. You know, like he needs to go. So, like Man United again, pointless. If you're going to leave West Ham, go to somewhere you're going to definitely win trophies.
And good point that you made about Real Madrid, because you know, with Modric and Toni Kroos,
if they get Mbappe, if they get Haaland,
yeah,
imagine Rice in that team. Jeez,
you'd want to play. You'd want to play for that club. But it's an interesting one, a really, really interesting one. But look, we're gonna. You know what? A massive thanks to everyone in the chat. I've got at least 21 questions starred, and there's more coming through. Keep them coming. We'll try and get through as many as we can. But at this moment in time, I want to get through kind of. I want to go to kind of a new section of the away days, and it's the lineups. So I talked to Dan earlier on in the day, and I said, look, hit me back with your possible lineup for Saturday. So for us Newcastle fans, it's always good to see how the opposition feel like they're going to set up their team. So we're going to put Dan's team on now. So here's Dan's setup. So it looks like a 4-2-3-1. Am I right, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Young Johnson. Is that the relation to Glenn Johnson? Is that right?
Yeah, I think he's like, some sort of nephew or something. I remember hearing about it recently. I'm sure I saw it on Twitter, and it's like, what? Like nephew or something like that? I never even knew it all these years.
Yeah, I remember seeing him earlier on in the season, and they mentioned, I think it was Sky, were bigging him up because he was a relation of Glenn Johnson, but I wasn't sure too much. But someone else asking in the chat, actually, who was West Ham's first choice keeper, and it is Fabianski. I'm sure about that because Areola played in the FA Cup. Is he still number one, Fabianski?
Yeah, it's that sort of transitional period. I think he still puts in good performances, but Areola, I really like Areola, and I really want us to sign him on a permanent. Okay. But Moyes have saying it's time to do that transitional. But yeah, Fabianski is still the guy.
Definitely. Zouma and Dawson in the centre back partnership. Yeah. You've talked about Agbona being out for a significant period of time.
It's harsh on Diop because he was obviously Diop as a player that you guys were linked with in January. Diop, he's come under a lot of criticism, but he had a really good game against Leicester. But I don't know whether Moyes will just take that then and go, do you know what, I'm going to let you start and drop Dawson or keep Zouma out. I don't know if that was enough for him to do that. So
Dawson got the equaliser, didn't he, in the last minute against Leicester? So surely it would be harsh on him to lose his place on the back of that. And look, where possible, with all the Zouma talk, where possible, I think it's really clear more than anything that Zouma is going to be played when available. So it looks like I saw on Twitter the other day that it looked like Zouma was back in training already. So it's looking like he's going to be fit and available. But Cresswell, sort of ever present really at the back there. Great delivery, great down that left hand side, and then you kind of got your midfield too, which is going to be the interesting part of the game where you got Rice and Souček, both cover every blade of grass. Good technical players, but look, Dan, I'll let you talk about your lineup. Talk about your.
Yeah, no problem. No, yeah, like you said, both of them, like Souček's distance that he covers in the game, like, is ridiculous. Like, I'm think I see an interview and Rice said like he does like, what was it, like 6-10K or something every game. I can't remember what it was, but it's like just a ridiculous amount of that he runs. So and Rice is Rice, you know, in the middle there. Lanzini, who's been such a weird one. So we got him, you know, back in the day during the Payet days, and you know was such a gem for us, but had injuries every season. Then had the big one when he went to the World Cup with Argentina. And then he sort of played himself back into it and into the game, and he's had some really good performances. Ben Rama was missing, had to come on it in as a sub at Leicester, changed the game, and you wonder like why didn't he start in the first place? He missed his creativity. He was willing to take a go, have a shot instead of us walking it into the back of the net. Absolutely love him. Jared Bowen, now honestly one of the most informed players in the league, most goal involvements behind Mo Salah. He's on one right now. Like the confidence that he's playing with, the effort that he puts in, the work rate. Another player who's not scared to take a shot on, and that is the thing. Like he'll get some fluky goals here and there, but that's just because he's willing to have a go. Like, and that is the thing about him. And he's another player that just runs and runs and runs. He's going to be a big threat. And he needs to get that England call up. If he don't, that's a travesty. And Antonio, he's so disappointing with his performances lately since he got called up for Jamaica. He's just not been the same player that we saw earlier on in the season.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just I don't know whether he's just tired. I mean, playing for Jamaica, he's going like the traveling schedule. You know, you're going to like the Caribbean. You're going to America, you're going South America, you know, so you might go and play like, all right, I've got to go Jamaica, then I've got to go to USA, now I've got to go Panama. Like, that's crazy. And add that on top of the European schedule that we've had of going around Europe, like Croatia and, you know, Belgium and all of that, and then traveling around the country. It's a lot for him as well, not to have another striker pushing him and be able to rotate. He has to play every game in all 90 minutes.
Let's not forget, Agent Callum Wilson is obviously taking his time in the Footballers Football podcast. If you watch it on if you listen to it on BBC. So I don't know if you do you listen to that, Dan, the podcast that Antonio and Callum.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out yet, you know, but I'm interested. And that's the thing. You all make it's a weird thing we have as football fans. You know, whenever a football player does something outside of football, and we think, is this going to take away from their football? Focus on the football. Like, I mean, realistically, there's no reason why I can't do a podcast. But these things worry you as a football fan. Anything like, is this going to be what you get paranoid? You know, he's a great personality, like Antonio, and we've got a few players like that who aren't just your typical robot media trained players, like him and Rice, just to speak so well. So I love him, but yeah, just disappointed in. I need a big performance. I need an Antonio goal that just helps him kick on. But the fact that we can't drop him, we can't rotate him, is a big problem. He said himself he wanted a striker there to push him, and we haven't got that. So yeah, that's been disappointing. So he's not coming into this in form, Antonio. So that is a good news for you. But Bowen's form right now is scary.
He's a top player. You know what? It hurts us a little bit that this man is playing so well, because we had that deal wrapped up, signed, sealed, delivered, that he was coming to Newcastle from Hull. It made sense. Steve Bruce at the time, that was the manager, had coached him. I say that lightly, hadn't coached him, but was manager of the Hull City that had Jared Bowen in the team at the time, and it made sense for us to sign him. But it was actually Steve Bruce that said no to the deal, in that he wanted to save his money for the summer. And that's why we didn't sign him. You guys picked him up, and his levels are just unreal. There's one guy in the chat that I'm in, the Geordies Down South boys, the Southern Mags. There's one guy, Daryl, that for the past year and a bit has just absolutely loved him, and he's still distraught to this day that he never signed for Newcastle United, and it still hurts. Like every time Jared Bowen gets an assist or gets a goal, I just know what's coming in our chat. It's just like Bowen, like, and it's just like he's just gutted that we didn't sign him. But he's a top player.
To be second to Mo Salah is crazy with goals and assists. Like that's madness to come from Hull and just to come up and to put those numbers in. And he just seems like a player. A lot of us are attributing it to him going out with Danny Dyer's daughter. Like since they got together, he's gone up another level. So we're hoping that relationship stays.
Yeah, as long as it stays, he keeps playing well. That's all that matters. That is for sure. Definitely. But look, a really good team there, full of quality players, which we would expect. You're sitting fifth in the league. You're having a fantastic season. I've, on the other hand, put my team together. And I think, there's one or two changes here, but most people will be kind of understanding of this team. And here it is. I'll take the comment off 1 second. So, one or two changes been made to the team, but the structure is pretty much the same as what we've seen under Eddie Howe. Dubravka in goal. There's been a bit of a question mark, Dan. You may have not been aware, but obviously Lascelles missed out on the game on Sunday because of an illness. So he missed the game. Wasn't in the squad at all. Dan Burn made his debut. Big Dan Burn, the Blythe Bonucci, as some call him, and he was outstanding. He was absolutely outstanding. Was given Sky's man of the match, quite rightly so. He was brilliant, and we've finally got two ball-playing centre-backs that are comfortable on the ball, that know how to defend, and they just, just watching them like in the stands, it looked like that they'd played together for like months or even years. They look so comfortable together, and it just makes a difference having two defenders that are really, really good and comfortable on the board. Where this change is obviously the fullback situation. Now, on the left-hand side with Target couldn't play against Villa because he's been loaned from there. Part of his loan agreement, he couldn't play, but he would naturally come back into the team. Where we have the issue is on the right-hand side. Now, obviously, we lost Trippier with a broken foot on Sunday. We also lost Manquillo, who would normally be his understudy, who played on the left-hand side on Sunday because Target wasn't there. Now, Manquillo landed funny and had to come off just before half-time, and it's looking like he's going to be out for 2 weeks. So it looks like Emil Kraft has come in, which, most Newcastle fans are not necessarily comfortable with, because he's liable to a mistake here and there. So that's
the side Bowen will be going down as well,
and that's the thing. So that's the bit that I worry about. That's the area that I worry about and I'm sure Eddie Howe is aware of that. That's going to be the area, because if you watch the game on Sunday, where their disallowed goal came from with Villa, it came from that side. And that they allowed that ball to get back in. So there's a big job there for Ryan Fraser and Joe Willock to support Kraft to ensure that they don't get anything coming down in that area. But going into the midfield, Shelvey is that sitter. Some fans, in the chat might be disappointed that I've not gone with Bruno Guimaraes, but that midfield three of Shelvey, Joe Linton and Willock has been playing so well. I cannot just allow anything to change at the moment, because they're playing so well. If they're playing as well as they are, let them continue doing that until something changes.
It's mad because isn't Joe Linton's a striker, right, traditionally? And so isn't Willock as well?
No, Willock's was kind of brought as maybe like an attacking midfielder number 10. And to be fair, Willock tends to be the one out of the two higher up of Joe Linton and Willock. He tends to be the one that kind of tries to make those runs in and behind to support Wood. So he covers a lot of ground, and Joe Willock was outstanding on Sunday. The amount of balls, the amount of pressures high up the pitch, the amount of recoveries he made, Joe Linton as well. It was just a really, really all-action performance from both of them. But Willock was fantastic. And then you got your threats on either wing. ASM we've talked about before. We know what ASM is going to bring. Ryan Fraser, and I'm sure guys in the chat and girls in the chat will agree that he's really turned his Newcastle career around since Eddie Howe's kind of got to grips with him. His work rate is just unmatched. He's just fantastic, and he's starting to really build a little bit of a connection. Whereas ASM likes to kind of dribble and do things himself, dribble in and out and cause problems on that left-hand side. Ryan Fraser's a little bit different. So he likes to get down that wing. He likes to whip balls into the box. He's trying to build up that understanding with Chris Wood. So what we saw on Sunday is that there were a lot more crosses on his right and left foot, aiming towards Chris Wood. So he's using him as a target man to try and get on the end of things. So they're just starting to build up their relationship. And obviously Wood at the top has been the big physical guy up there. So that's my team. Anything kind of stand out for you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, like Wood starting, is a big. So he's got 90 minutes to score against us. But part of me feels like it's usually, you might see him like cut out. That's what I was thinking. He's going to come off the bench and be a problem. But yeah, 90 minutes. So hopefully we can deal with him. That is a worry that he is starting. So yeah, Ryan Fraser obviously is a decent player. That's a good team there, really, if they're all on it. Yeah, let's see how you go, man.
Yeah, Yano in the chat. Welcome, Yano. Hope you're well, mate. He's put Bet Dawson don't sleep well before the game. J7 had him in his pocket the last time they played, and ASM will be all over him like a cheap suit. Don't know what your thoughts are on that, Dan. But yeah, the one person Yano hasn't mentioned is obviously with Dawson is Wood for the things that you mentioned. The fact that he's not. He's one of those players that likes to play against West Ham, so that'll be an interesting watch.
Still, like Dawson against Wood, I'm interested because Dawson is a physical, old school defender where, you know what I mean, if you're putting balls in, he'll get stuck in, get the headers out. It's one of them, like, if you're like, I would be more worried about a player like, say, Maximum against Dawson because of his quickness and his ability to play with the ball to his feet. Whereas like someone like Woods, he does like goals against us, but that's a pairing I'm a little bit more comfortable with in terms of Wood and Dawson.
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure. It's good. It's going to be interesting. Going to be really, really interesting on how things kind of transpire in that game. But yeah, really good lineup. Really, really good lineup from yourself. Going to be interesting to see how that works out. Interesting to see how our lineup is going to kind of transpire with a team higher up in the league, because we've played Everton that were struggling and we really outplayed them. We should have probably won more than 3-1 in that game with the amount of chances we created. Before that, we went to Leeds and won 1-0. We probably should have won by more goals. And then Aston Villa, who are at the top of the bottom half of the table. This is going to be different for us because we're playing a team that are fifth in the league, that you guys have been high flying. So it's going to be a real test for us in terms of our confidence and how we've been playing against a team that are flying, that are playing really well at the moment. So that's going to be an interesting one. But look, we're going to move on. Before I get into some of the questions, because I've still got loads of questions to ask you, a few quick fire rounds. But before that, we're going to get some stats. And for anyone watching the show, there's only one way we talk stats, and it's with this man.
Evening, lads.
Evening, mate.
Like magic, double O Stato. Keith, how you doing?
Nice to see you. It's a bit windy out there, isn't it, lads? Yeah, just a tad.
Just a bit.
Just before the show, I was having to get everything in from the backyard, from the garden, just to make sure that we don't lose anything in the morning when we wake up.
Yeah, don't put your washing out, whatever you do.
Tell me about it. But look, great to have you on, Keith, as always, week to week. Big game on Saturday, West Ham away. Not always been a bad place to travel, certainly in recent years. But look, hopefully you throw me some stats our way that is going to make the Newcastle fans happy. But what have you got for us, mate?
Well, you're correct there, Pete. it's normally quite a good happy hunting ground, really. Traditionally in the Premier League, West Ham have got quite a good record in London, as well as at St James's Park. In 23 away fixtures, Newcastle have won 10, they've drawn 4, and they've lost 9 against West Ham. And 3 of the last 4 wins, 3 of 4 last games at the London Stadium, Newcastle have won 3 out of the last 4 there. So incredible record, really. I do miss the old bowling ground, but I'm quite happy with how things are going at the new stadium when Newcastle go there.
Most of them must have come in our shambolic area when we first moved in under Slaven and then Pellegrini, surely, the banter era.
Yeah, and on the opening, apart from the opening day last season with David Moyes, with Callum Wilson and Hendrick even getting a goal now, it's saying something if Hendrick gets a goal. But Newcastle traditionally have scored a few more goals in this fixture, 78 to West Ham's 60. But West Ham have got the slight edge over the clean sheets. 15 to Newcastle's 14 clean sheets traditionally. The last 0-0 hasn't been one of them for a while between Newcastle and West Ham. Down at London, it was the end of the 2012-2013 season since a 0-0. So I wouldn't be tipping a 0-0 on Saturday. Jared Bowen, Dan touched on earlier, has been on absolute fire for West Ham. Really impressed with his stats. 7 goals in the last 7 games, really, in the Cup and the League. And again, he's the best goal scorer and assists of an English player in the league in all competitions. Now, that's incredible. That he's got something like 23, 25 goals and assists, really, combined, really. Brilliant record. But Chris Wood has a brilliant record against West Ham as well, which has been touched earlier in the show. 7 goals in 11 games, and 9 of those games were in the Premier League as well for Chris Wood. Wow. West Ham have got a better points record away from home than home this season. Only just in 2 of the last 5 games for West Ham at home have been defeats against Leeds and Southampton 3-2 both times. Eddie Howe, his managerial record against West Ham, he's managed 13, he's won 5, drawn 4 and lost 4. So he's got like an average of 1.5 points per game. He plays West Ham. And David Moyes, his record against Newcastle, he's managed 29. He's won 11, he's drawn 7, and he's lost 11. So quite even there again, sort of.
How many of those when he managed Sunderland?
Unfortunately, we weren't in the same division because we were relegated the previous season. He took over.
No, do you know what it is? Because I remember Sunderland, there was that point. I hate to bring this up on the Newcastle show, it's so bad, but they had that point where they had a really good record against you guys, even though they was always. You guys were like it would be up there challenging for like 6th, 5th. They'd be in relegation battle, and it'd still be one of those, wouldn't it? Where they became your bogey team. But yeah, that's a good point.
Newcastle just didn't turn up for 2 years, isn't that right, Pete? From 2013 to 2015, they were missing against Sunderland.
Definitely. And part of me wants them to get back up so we can prove them wrong and change that result back. But I'm kind of enjoying the fact that they're in League One in their language.
Can we not get them in the Cup, Pete? Maybe next year, get them in the Cup and just turn them over 7-0 at St James's Park when we've got a few more players.
You know what? If you don't beat the relegation drop, I think they're looking like they could get promoted. Then you can face them next season.
Don't say that, man. Come on,
I'm just saying there's a possibility there.
No, there is. But actually,
6 to 8 weeks ago, Dan, I would agree with you. I was very worried. But Sunderland, I know this isn't a Sunderland show, but bizarrely, in the last 5-6 weeks, they've just had a crazy run of results. Really, in the last 8 games,
they're still in the promotion race, but they've got 2 or 3 teams below them that have got games in hand that are in good form. So if they win their games in hand, they'll actually fall out of the playoffs, which it could mean another season in League One. Oh, what a shame! What a shame!
Another series of Sunderland until I die out. That'd be great.
I wish, mate. Brilliant. Go on then, Keith. Any more for us?
That's pretty much rounded off. I mean, I've got to say, in the last 2 seasons and this season in particular, megally impressed with West Ham's front line and the midfield in particular. The goals per game from the likes of, obviously we've touched on earlier, obviously Jarrod Bowen. Declan Rice has really came on as a player with his 6 goals or so this season. And the front line as well. I know that Dan's a little bit disappointed there with Antonio, but particularly he started the season off really well. He's got about 9 or so goals, and also Ben Rami as well has looked good for a goal or 2 as well. So I just think, West Ham in particular, the goals compared to Newcastle's from the midfield, which is we're wanting a few more goals from Newcastle in the midfield, aren't we, really? And that does concern me, I've got to say, that the West Ham look like they've got more going forward in particular.
Yeah, no, you're right. Look, have you been more of a free-flowing sort of goal-scoring team, Dan, this season?
Yeah, it's it's one of those, last season we were up there with set-piece goals. The amount of goals we scored from set pieces was up there. This season, it took us a long, we couldn't buy a goal from a set piece. Yeah. And then that sort of picked up later in the season. We started to get a bit more. So, like Keith's right. The thing that's kept us up there is that we've got goals all around the pitch. We don't just rely on Antonio to score, which is our big saving grace. So if Antonio can drop out of form and you've got a Bowen, a Benrahma, Lanzini, Rice will chip in with something, Souček will come in, you may get like a Zouma or Dawson on a corner. So that's the big thing for us, really. So there's threats all around the pitch. It's going to be interesting as well to see how you do defend set pieces, because we do have some good players that you want in that box when there's a corner being taken. So it'll be interesting to see how you deal with that, for sure.
Well, we've got Big Dan Burn, the Blythe Bonucci. Was it 6'7"? He was honestly, when I talked about it earlier, Dan, I'm not lying. He literally won everything.
His debut, wasn't it? Really, it reminded me. I know he had his injury problems, but if you remember Jonathan Woodgate, his debut against Chelsea all those years ago, that was pretty much a dream debut as well, in that 2-1 win all those years ago.
A fantastic kind of comparison, Keith. It did feel like a Jonathan Woodgate type debut. He was unplayable. What was really interesting, Dan, about this, and Keith, you might have spotted this as well, is that from watching from the Strawberry Corner on Sunday, he was literally West Ham were playing, not West Ham, sorry, Villa were playing those long balls in deep to try and get it in and behind for Ollie Watkins to run onto. And he was just winning everything in the air. So it turned into the second part of the second half, where they're actually trying to play it diagonal. So it was away from Dan Burn and going over to the side of Fabian Schär. But Dan Burn was reading it, so he was going over to that side and winning it on the other side of the defence as well. So he was winning everything in the air, and they even tried to change the way they played in terms of that long ball up in the air. But he was bringing it down his chest, he was winning it in the air. He was always finding a Newcastle player. And it just looked really comfortable. And when we had the ball, even when they pressed high with Watkins, who is not slow, and they've got Coutinho, Buendia pressing high, he just looked so comfortable on the ball. He was just playing it out nicely. It was just really, really good to see. But set pieces, I think Villa had at least 10, 11 set pieces, corners. They had quite a few in the second half, and he was just winning everything. So that's one area where I think he will improve us in terms of our height. Joe Linton won a couple as well of big headers in set pieces. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes on, because, like I say, you got the equaliser on Sunday through a set piece from the corners, from a corner. Dawson scored. So being interesting to see how that works out from our defensive point of view, but also from our offensive point of view, how you guys defend that as well, Dan.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm worried. Yeah, because of the player like Chris Woods, and obviously you got a player like Burn, 6'7". Like, you're going to be a problem on set pieces, so we got to be switched on as well.
I think as well, it's something I was worried about. It was something I was worrying about over a month ago, the height in the Newcastle team. I was there for that Cambridge game and I had my head in the hands early in the second half. And I was saying to my friend who I was at the match with, Newcastle just don't seem to have any height, particularly in the box. You know, they had Trippier putting the balls in on his debut and there was just nobody with height. You'd think they weren't going to be winning any balls and they weren't. Whereas now they've got Byrne, and they've got Wood. So even if Wood isn't as effective in front of goal, you've got more chance of winning in the box, the height and everything, and he's with his flick-ons and that, haven't you? You know.
Yeah. No, you're right. Very, very good point. Right. There's a number of questions I want to get through. And actually, I'm not even going to go to the star questions because there's one already up here from Geordie Tune for Life. And I think Lauren Rose has already kind of answered it, but we'll see what Dan thinks in terms of a question for Dan. I know Millwall are your biggest sort of game locally fan-wise, but who in the Premier League is your grudge game, the team that you really want to beat? Now, Lauren Rose has mentioned potentially that it's Tottenham, but from your perspective, who do you think it is?
Tottenham, yeah, Tottenham 100%. Arrogant fan base, like to look down on us, like to pretend they don't care about West Ham. Yet every time they're always looking out at our fixtures, our results. We lose a game, they're in our mentions, in our comments. You know, we love to see the meltdown when we beat them. That is the game. That is the game for sure. I love beating Tottenham, and we've had so many good results over them. Upset them when they've been challenging for the league and derailed them. And yeah, it's always good fun. The banter and the memes that come out of it is just brilliant. But yeah, they'll tell you they don't care about us, but they're absolutely obsessed.
Wasn't it that season as well where Tottenham missed out on the Champions League? I think it was the mid-2000s when they were going out for it with Arsenal for the first time. And I think Sheringham missed the penalty or something, and it was I think Tottenham had food poisoning before the last game of the season.
Yeah, lasagna gate.
Yeah, lasagna.
Remember it.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, it's definitely Tottenham.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree with that. I'm just going to work through some of the star questions. So put Gary, put evening Pete, great to meet you in person. Yeah, met Gary, top guy. Met him in the Dog and Parrot before the game on Saturday. She had a couple of shandies with him before we headed up because I was driving. But yeah, great to meet him. I hope to meet you again soon, mate. That's for sure. Trippier for Prime Minister. What a name. Trippier for Prime Minister. I would agree. Do a better job than Boris Johnson, that's for sure. Reckon the game might be cancelled due to weather-related travel restrictions. We talked about that earlier as a potential. Fingers crossed that's not the case. But yeah, hopefully everyone's safe. A lot of Newcastle fans have kind of taken that into consideration and travelled down today for the game in advance to ensure that they didn't get caught up in that. So fingers crossed that's not the case at all. Tom Dixon put, hi Julie, hope you're well. Finally out of isolation. Hope you're well, Tom. Great to have you in the chat tonight. Brett C, Target could make a massive impact at the weekend. It's almost like we've forgotten how good he was last against Everton. He was really, really good. Keith, you know, what were your thoughts about Matty Target playing against Everton? I thought he had a really, really solid game. Yeah,
really assured debut as well. Quite solid, and that's the key word for me. Solid, and I'm just finding it sort of getting used to the fact of the rotation, having those options, these extra options. You know, Trippier's out, unfortunately, but Target comes back in. And how long's it been since we've had those sort of options, particularly in defence?
It's great to see. Great to see. Interesting one here, Geordie Tune for Life. How much do you miss the bowling ground?
Yeah, very much. You know, like it was, just a special place. You know, the whole area around it. Proper football ground, close to the pitch. You know, like I said, we had the pubs, proper pubs around the area, the stalls, the proper program sellers, not the high vis stadium employed program sellers we had now. It was just proper local community. So I miss it a lot. And it's not the same, you know, but it's the way football's going, much more corporate, much more polished. So Yeah, I always look back at the old videos anytime I see old footage and think, damn, like what a special place that was. So yeah, miss it a lot.
It's an interesting one. And it's the reason why I put it. I kind of started on there is because there's been a lot of talk in the last week or so within the Newcastle circuit around Newcastle building a new stadium and what people's thoughts are on that. And there's been a kind of a real big discussion about that. And obviously, the West Ham situation with the Bowling Ground moving to the Olympic Stadium has been kind of a comparison view of why maybe we shouldn't do it. Is because there's a lot of West Ham fans that are saying that the atmosphere is maybe not quite the same as it was at the Bowling Ground. It didn't generate the same type of atmosphere. It doesn't feel the same being in the Olympic Stadium compared to the previous stadium. Just quickly, Keith, from your point of view, what are your thoughts about moving to a new stadium? Do you think we need to think about that right now? Would you want to move away from St James's Park?
I don't think we're there yet, Pete. I think we've got other priorities. We've got the training ground. We've got to make sure the club moves up the table and sustains itself first. I think it's something for the future to consider.
Yeah, wait till your players stop having to stand in dustbins filled up with water before you move.
We need the training facilities like what they've got at Middlesbrough and Sunderland, and even better, really. But it's one for the future. But there's a lot of complexities with St James's Park, and there was some good plans. I don't know if you'd seen them or if either of you had seen them, where they were talking about rotating the pitch 90 degrees so that you'd build on the Leazes and the Gallagher end and move out slightly, but that would take a lot of time and complexities. And yourself, Pete, how long it took to develop St James's as we know it in the mid-90s to the early 2000s. Limitations as well with your city centre as well. Where else could you have St James's Park? Could you use the arena land? And even that's about a mile away from the ground itself. So you've got to think about the options. And an ideal world for me would be they would redevelop St James's Park to maybe 70,000, but that's got its complexities in itself, is what we've discussed, and the financial side as well. So I think we're a few years off that, maybe 5, even 10 years down the road before we see a fully new developed St James's Park for the 21st century,
No, it's a fair point. And I know from a Loaded HQ point of view, we're going to have a discussion on this later on in the season. Like you said, it's not a situation for now. It's not something we need to look at for now. The priority is staying in the league. As Dan's rightly said, we do not want to be kind of going in ice baths in a wheelie bin anymore. We need to, first and foremost, we need to redevelop our training facilities. And fingers crossed we've got the right man that will oversee that, because it's looking like when his gardening leave is sorted that Dan Ashworth is the man to come in from Brighton and oversee a redevelopment of our training ground and the facilities in there. Anyone that knows about Brighton knows that their new training facility is one of the best in Europe. And so there's no better person to come in as a technical director of football, whichever one you want to see, to come in and oversee that transformation. That's for sure. So a real sort of exciting time, sort of being a Newcastle fan from that perspective. We've talked about Declan Rice already. Martin's put again, can you ask Dan how much for Declan Rice in the summer? I think you touched on that already.
Yeah, 100 million, but you want something above the odds. And again, that's just what he's valued to us. And if people don't want to pay the price, don't pay the price. But yeah, big money, because replacing him is going to be very difficult for sure.
Definitely, I would agree with you. Another quick one in here. What team does Dan dislike the most? I know you talked about Tottenham being your biggest rivals, but what team do you dislike the most?
So, apart from Tottenham, apart from Millwall, it's funny. Millwall, we've actually only played them a handful of times in my lifetime. It's hard to feel genuine hatred for a team that you hardly play, whose fans you hardly encounter. And it's a big debate over us between some fans will say, no, we hate Tottenham more because we just you don't have that. If you never played Sunderland, you rarely ever played them. but Middlesbrough were always in there, and they, in the Premier League, and fans would feel a bit more Middlesbrough. You might have that feeling a bit more, but that's how it is. But Arsenal is another one that just some of the stuff their fans come out with, delusional and arrogance, and a lot of their fans, they do get on my nerves a bit for sure. And that's the main ones. Aston Villa, I've gone right off Aston Villa since they came back up, and the cheating, the diving they was doing. And I know Newcastle fans have no love for Aston Villa as well.
Yeah, you know what? It definitely added to the atmosphere on Sunday when we beat them, because we were even more so in celebratory mood, particularly when the goal was disallowed. Their goal, Ollie Watkins, was disallowed, and obviously beating West Ham, because West Ham were in the mindset they were high flying. Sorry, not West Ham, Aston Villa were high flying. They're kind of almost looking down on Newcastle, but then we got that win. We outplayed them. We deserved 3 points. Even Steven Gerrard mentioned it. So you've got all that sob on the time rubbish from 2009. They always bring that up as a way of trying to wind us up. But look, there's nothing that can wind us up right now, because we've got new owners, we've got a new future ahead of us as a football club, and we're confident that at some point in the near future we'll be right ahead of them. Hopefully alongside West Ham, fighting for those sort of top 6 positions. But there's definitely a mutual dislike, should we say, to Aston Villa there. That's for sure. Interesting one here from Tom Dixon for you, Dan. It says, what's your thoughts on Mikel Antonio? I know you've touched on him before, and you said that, he needs to score, in that the international stuff with him traveling hasn't helped him, but do you see him as a long-term striker for West Ham, or do you think you need to get someone better in to move you forward after this season?
I see it. Look, I love Antonio. He's our record goal scorer in the Premier League. He's a great guy, comes across so well, good in the team, works hard. But if we're going to progress, to me, he can't be like number one, relied on first choice striker. He can always compete to play himself into that, but I see him going forward as like super sub. I can imagine him coming on 70 odd minutes and running defenders ragged, like just coming on, and then instead of conserving his energy over the course of the game, like he can just go all out for the course of that 25, 15 minutes or whatever. That's what I see, and then we can have like a striker, because that's the thing, there's no options off the bench, and you have Antonio on the bench as an option, and maybe he plays himself into it and you can swap around, but that's where I see it. I don't want to be in a situation where it's just like we're always looking at him as like he is the de facto guy, and we've got another striker who's just second fiddle. Like, we need someone that's equal or better than Antonio.
Nah, I think that's a fair point. And obviously just turned 30, he's kind of looking the other side of his career now. So that's where, a club that's looking at progression would look at maybe a younger striker coming in to kind of take the reign off him. That's for sure. Interesting one here. It's sort of away from West Ham, but more Newcastle. It was linked today. So Guybrush mentioned we were linked with Doku today. Very exciting summer ahead. Now, it was in the Chronicle actually, linked with Jeremy Doku, who currently Belgian international, plays in France, left winger. I think he's 19 at the moment. Really, really talented young lad. And I think, it just shows the progression that this club is looking at. We're looking at some of the top young players across Europe. You look at Sven Botman, who we're linked with, under 21s Dutch international, winner of La Liga, playing in the Champions League against Chelsea shortly, I think next week. Looking at these top young players, Hugo Ekitike, who was also linked with West Ham, now Jeremy Doku. It's going to be a really, really interesting summer how these things, how it's going to pan out. But yeah,
we're blatantly just going to be linked with all the same players as well. It's going to be one of those. I noticed that, like, we'd be linked with playing Newcastle once.
We always have been, though. I've always thought over the last few years, Dan, that we've always been linked with the same sort of players. Like, even when we were linked with Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser, you guys were as well.
It'd be like us and Everton. same players links with every summer, and you just like you'd see your link with a player, and you see this other, Newcastle, everyone, and you go, oh bloody hell, man! Like, we've got to try and all fight for this player. So that's probably what it's going to be like. A lot of us fighting for the same players.
In an ideal world, it's going to be Newcastle and West Ham really as the new sort of like Leicester's really pushing in the top 6, pushing at the top 4, 5. Break it up, maybe getting the odd honour here and there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It'll be interesting. It'll be quite refreshing actually to see these guys sort of fighting it out for those top positions and not always the same sort of top 6 as such. Interesting one here from Adam. Who wins the Burn versus Antonio battle in Dan's opinion? So I've obviously talked about the Blythe Bonucci, as I've mentioned, Big Dan Burn, as other people know him as. With this aerial threat and how well he played. Who do you think wins that battle on Saturday?
In the air, obviously, it's got to be Burn, right? As good as Antonio is in the air, but there's things that Antonio can do, like his ability to take the ball, turn and shoot, just things like that. His intelligence. I think people don't give him credit for actually how intelligent he is as a player. I think it's going to be a very interesting battle for sure. And I just hope we get Antonio fully refreshed, recharged, and raring to go.
No, I would agree with that. Keith, who do you think wins the battle, Burn or Antonio?
I want to say Burn. I do want to say Burn, but it's only his second Newcastle game. So they're probably both going to have their moments, aren't they, really? And as I said earlier in the stats, there's probably going to be goals both sides.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree. Definitely. A Moyes question here, coming to the last few questions. It says, question for Dan. What was the general feeling amongst fans when Moyes returned? I'm not sure if you touched on this earlier on in the show.
Yeah, just general feeling at the time, very mixed. A lot of us, I'd done a video that's still on YouTube and I still see people commenting it now. And I said, I can't remember what I said and I titled it, but it was just like, it's an absolute shambles, basically along the lines of what I was getting at. Like the embarrassment of we've said this manager isn't good enough. And then we sign another manager, we sack that manager, then we go back to the manager that wasn't good enough to stay at the first place. And it was just like crazy. So for like half the fan base, it was like, geez, what are we doing? Some fans were like, oh, I liked Moyes the first go round. I want to give him a chance. So it's very mixed.
No, interesting point. There's a few good questions come on here. Tom Dixon, what's your thoughts on Mark Noble? He's had a fantastic career at West Ham. I know we had a little bit of a laugh and a joke about the Shelby versus Mark Noble, who's better than who, the last time we were kind of on. But, Mark Noble, is it looking like it's his last season at the club? Is he moving on at the end of this season?
It looks like it looks like he's moving upstairs. They're giving him trying to give him an executive role in the club. So it's a shame it's going to be. Yeah, so he's going to be up there, like whether I think he wants to be involved in transfers and things like that, from what I'm hearing, and not necessarily directly on the coaching team, but a little bit higher up in the club, and that's what they're talking about. But yeah, I love Noble to bits. Such an underrated player for an English player, I think, from a lot of fans, and especially that 15-16 season, he was unreal. Should have been in the England squad. And he's just invaluable to this club in terms of what he does off the pitch. Even Jack Wilshere come out and said that he's the best captain he's ever played under. Declan Rice said he's like a dad to him. He's going to have a very important legacy, I think, at West Ham for just how well and how respected he has been by players and how well he's integrated a lot of players into the team. And that last game, man, it's going to be so sad. It's going to be horrible. Like, I'm really not looking forward to it. And, he's been here for so long at the club, come through the academy, one club, man. Yeah, can't say enough good things about him.
As neutral as well. I mean, I'm sure Peter Ladd as well. It's so rare that you get a player like Mark Noble now that's been a career man as a West Ham man, and that'll be looked back upon in years. It's like Francesco Totti and AS Roma in Italy, you know, where the club is embedded into the player.
Yeah, and every manager that we've ever had since he broke through has always picked him. He's always been picked. Obviously, he's not, you know, he's coming to the end of his career, so he's not in the team week in, week out, but it just says everything about him as a quality player. And he's just one of them players that you have to really understand what he does to appreciate him, because he's never going to be a highlight reel type of player. So yeah, that's why he don't really get the respect that he deserves, I think.
I agree. Some of the comments on here, but yeah, I'm trying to get through these comments, and we're getting towards the end. But other great comments keep coming up. Great one from Dan Brown. Who do you think will win the Lingard race in the summer, or do you think both West Ham and the Toon will opt to pass on him altogether? Now, look, it looked like before the January transfer window that he was a dead cert for West Ham on a free transfer at the end of the season. But do you still think that's the case? Do you think it's already been sort of pre-agreed, Dan, that you guys have wrapped up that Lingard deal?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm confident about it, unless you offer him like just some crazy money that he can't turn down. That I feel he would come to us. He really enjoyed his time with us the first time around. The fans took to him. He had a good relationship with fans. He has a good relationship with David Moyes, the other players. You know, he seemed to really enjoy himself. And look, Moyes and everything helped him just reinvent himself, rejuvenate himself, getting back in contention for the England squad. So the thing I was worried about was you guys getting him in January and then him getting comfortable up at Newcastle and then you being able to sign him on a permanent. So I was really happy when you didn't sign him, and then so it gives me hope then for we sign him on a free. I think that could be one of our first signings if Moyes just goes, right, he's available, get that over the line. But it's going to be interesting. Like you guys go, right, we're going to pay you 200 grand a week. Here's a 20 million signing on bonus. Go knock yourself out, son. Like, then that's another story.
Yeah, you can live in Cheshire as well. Just get the helicopter every day.
yeah. We'll get you the private jet.
That sounds like the Mike Ashley days with Michael Owen. Really, hopefully not. Quick one from Adam. How many goals has Mikel Antonio, I think he's referring to, scored to be top scorer?
Do you know what? This sounds going to sound really terrible, but it's like 50 something.
Okay.
And that is just because of how poor we've been, especially under the Golden Sullivan era of signing strikers. We've signed a hell of a lot of strikers. Hardly any of them have ever got more than 10 goals. Before that, it was the Canio was the next one. It goes Antonio on 50 something, the Canio on like 48 or 49, and then Mark Noble on like 47. So that's our top three goal scorers: Antonio, the Canio, Noble. That is just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, I've just said what Adam
57.
said. 57. Surprised at 57.
57. Yeah, so it's up to 57.
We've got the stat man on here. Of course, he's going to know how many is that. 57.
It's because we've never been able to get that striker that is consistently, like you had with Shearer, or that prolific striker that's going to score week in, week out. You can rely on him. He's going to be here a long time and really bag some goals. Like we haven't had that. We had Andy Carroll kept saying, I'm the 15 to 20 goal a season man, and couldn't barely play 15 to 20 games a season, So that was we had him as he was the guy we relied on for like 5 years, Andy Carroll, and he could barely stay fit, So yeah.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and it's hard to kind of judge against Alan Shearer. He's like the top Premier League goal scorer ever, so it's always hard to judge that from that point of view. Coming towards the end of these comments now, I think Geordie Tune for Life has made a really good point. But I think West Ham and Newcastle fans have a lot in common. Working class people who love our club but remain down to earth. I would 100% agree with that. I think it's a really, really good point. Brett C's put, just regarding the game, I'm hoping to see at least 45 minutes from Bruno Gimenez at the weekend. Target and Manquillo can give enough balance at the back. Manquillo is not going to be fit, unfortunately, so it's looking like it's going to be Kraft that's going to play. But Kraft didn't do too bad, in my opinion, when he came on. Apart from the goal that was disallowed, I thought he was relatively solid. But I think Howe's going to have to do a little bit of work with him to stop the likes of Bowen, who, as Dan's already said, is fit and firing at this moment in time. David Cronin said, I think Joe Linton will give Rice a nightmare day. He'll be all over him like a cheap aftershave. We talked about this earlier, Dave, and I think it's going to be a really, really interesting battle between the two. Declan Rice is on fire at the moment, but so is Joe Linton. He's playing really, really well. So that's why I kind of paired them up as a really good battle. And whether that's something that Howe's going to do the same, I think we'll have to wait and see. But at this point right now, let's get down to the predictions for this game. So we'll start with, Gary's put, Dan's definitely a happy hammer, but hopefully not at 4:50 on Saturday. Maybe a little bit earlier than that with this being the early kickoff, but we'll see. But Dan, I'll come to you first. What are you thinking with regard to the score at, say, 2:45 on Saturday? What do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried about this game, to be honest. I'm very split between a draw and a win for West Ham. We need 3 points. I feel like we need 3 points more than Newcastle need 3 points, because I think you can afford it. As much as it don't seem like it, you'll still win the relegation battle. I just think that you guys are going to be fine, where it's just so much tighter in this top 4 race right now. Is every point just counts, and it is just we desperately need it. So I'm feeling like with what I've seen, we can get it over the line. The big thing I need to see is a good performance. I'm desperate to see a good performance, because we played really poor against Leicester, got something out of the game, and that's been the case. Played poor against Watford, won the game, and since the turn of the year, we've just had these unconvincing performances and got it over the line, which is, they say it's the sign of a good team and all of that, but you can't do that for long periods of time. It's something you've got to start going and coming out and go, yes, West Ham were by far the better team, clearly deserved all 3 points. Really show what we can do. So I don't just want to see a win. I want to see a convincing win. I want us to come out as the better team and really show what we can do. It's not easy because Newcastle were on great form, but I'm feeling like there will be goals in it. I think we can win this 3-2, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get a draw. If we get a draw, I'll be pissed. But if we get a draw, but we play really well, I'll be happy. If I feel like, damn, like we were robbed or something, give me some. I just want to see us play well, because I'm tired of these just crap performances.
Definitely. No, it's a fair point. Keith, what are you thinking? Interesting there from Laz the Mag. Toon haven't conceded more than 1 goal this year since 2022 kicked in. Interesting stat that. But what are you thinking by 2:45 on Saturday? What do you think the final score is going to be?
Well, I'll just throw in another stat as well and say the last time Newcastle played West Ham at a lunchtime, they won 3-2 last year as well up at St. James's Park. Ooh. But no, I've gone through funny spells this week where I've sort of like been confident, not so confident, and I just think I was thinking a defeat, but the more the week's gone on, I've been thinking more a draw, an away draw, and I'm thinking there'll be goals in it, and I'm inclined to go maybe a 1-1 or a 2-2, and hopefully I'd be happy to take 1-1 right now, and last couple of times I've been on, I've tipped a 1-1 draw and Newcastle have won, so I'm just going to tip another 1-1.
It's going to come down to tactics. I think it's going to come down to which manager can look at the other team and set up the right way to try and counter what the other opposition do. So it's going to be very interesting.
No, I would agree. And you know what? I was going to go for the 1-1, but you stole it from me, Keith. So from my point of view, I think we're gonna. I think we might nick it 2-1. I think it'll be a really close game. I really do. I think it'll be a tight game. I think tactics, as Dan said, is going to play a part, which may slow down it. It's not going to be like a Leeds game at the Olympic Stadium where it was all action. You guys were end to end pretty much for the whole 90 minutes because of the way Leeds play, and they're very open. I don't think we're going to be as open at all like Leeds were, so I think it's going to be a bit cagey. It's going to be quite cagey at times. I would have gone for a 1-1 and I would have took a point. I would take a point on Saturday, but I think, I've got to be positive, surely. I think we're going to win the game and go 4 on the bounce. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Newcastle. But there's others that have made their points. So Wilfred's been very, very stern on his opinions. Don't want no arguments. Newcastle to beat West Ham 2-1 on Saturday would to score.
You're due a loss. Let's be real. Come on, you're due a loss.
You're right. You're right.
I had one a month ago at Cambridge. That was a mighty loss, wasn't it, Pete?
Yeah, massive out the cup. At home at St James's Park, nobody expected that, so hopefully that's our loss out the way. Muncher said 3-2 win for the Toon. He thinks we're going to get the win. Tom Dixon's gone. Wood to get the winner 1-0. So that'll be interesting. Andrew Bygate's just gone 0-7. Like that's just like I'm not sure about that one. But look, I'll take it, but I'm not quite sure about that one. And N3WT on has said 0 to Newcastle. So very, very interesting, that one there. Gary Milligan has said, hi Pete, when we find out if you're coming up for the Leicester game, I will be up for the Leicester game in April. So looking forward to that. Have it confirmed shortly, but yeah, I'll be in touch and we'll definitely meet up for another couple of drinks before the game then. That is for sure. And last one, it says, Dan, you'll definitely see a different Newcastle than you did under Bruce. You'll be amazed at the fitness levels, which we never had before. And I think that's a really, really interesting point to finish on, purely because the last time we played you at St James's Park, we obviously took the lead and we matched you for a period of time. But particularly in the second half, your fitness levels of your team completely overridden everything that we had in place because we were unfit. And on the Footballers Football podcast a while ago, Callum Wilson actually alludes to it when he talks to Mikel Antonio about how unfit they were in their pre-season compared to West Ham, and it paid the price in our game up at St James's Park. We are incredibly fit now. We outworked Aston Villa on Sunday. We outworked Everton. We outworked Leeds because we just kept running. We didn't give up. The energy levels are up there, and I think that's going to play a huge part in whether we get something from the game at the Olympic Stadium. So a really, really good point from Geordie Toon for Life. It's been an amazing show tonight. Really, really appreciate all the comments in the chat. I could have starred another 20, but we just literally haven't got time to continue on. But it's been fantastic. Just before we finish, again, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Come and join the Loaded family on the rise to 3,000. And if you're not a member already, this is how you join the channel. Click the membership, join, come and join us. Loads of members in the chat tonight throwing out their questions with regards to all things Newcastle and West Ham. Lots of stuff coming up. We are back tomorrow night, the Loaded Mag special, the Premier League Survival. All the boys are going to be in the house talking the big game on Saturday. And on Saturday, we've got a reaction show. That'll be in the afternoon, early evening. We will be back with a reaction show, hopefully celebrating another 3 points. But let's wait and see. And going into next week, the main man, Kieran Maguire, is back talking all things the price of football, looking at where Newcastle stand financially now. We've had our big transfer window. So we'll be joined by Kieran. Looking forward to that show. Lots and lots for us to look at. Going through, we've got our sponsors, so PMP, Prince, Pins and Prints, one of our new sponsors, so welcome in to the Loaded family. Also, we've got Shy Burns with their fantastic various different pieces of clothing. and items. Get yourself involved with Shy Burns, and of course we have Black and White Army Bronwyn. It will be coming with her new range very shortly. But Black and White Army have lots and lots of different types of clothing. Get yourself involved and support a fantastic clothing line. Dan, been amazing to have you on the show again. Went on longer than I expected, but it was just such a good chat that we were just kind of chatting along, and it kind of drifted on. But absolute pleasure to have you on as always. Great to chat to you, and I'm sure we'll have you back at some point. Hopefully next season when we're playing Premier League football again.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Without a doubt, it's been a pleasure. And if you are down there on Saturday, maybe we'll bump into each other after the game or something. You know, 100%. I mean, are you? How are you doing? Are you staying out there, or are you going straight back?
I'm heading straight back, but I'll be down there a little bit earlier. Obviously, because of the weathers, I want to give myself enough time to get down there, and kind of make sure that I'm safe.
Well, safe journey, mate. And like I said, next, good luck for the season, and maybe, in the next season, if you stay up, we'll be again. It's going to be very interesting. Maybe we'll try and do something in the transfer window or something leading up when we're linked with 20 of the same player.
It would definitely be an interesting summer. I think at some point we might have to have a summer show where we come on and talk about all the signings that we're linked with. But look, everyone in the chat, Jeff, Tom, Geordie Toon for Life, lots of them saying great show. Pleasure to having Dan and yourself, Keith, on. Keith, as always, massive thanks. 00 Stato, always throwing stats our way, and we really appreciate everything you do for Loaded HQ. So massive thanks to you, Keith, as well. No problem. Right, we'll be back, as I said, Loaded Mag tomorrow night. But until then, you guys take care, and we will speak to you soon. And as always, we do love playing away. You guys take care.